What's going on YouTube? It's Texans Take over here, back with another video. In today's video, we have my Texans roster outlook for the next season. This has got some guys here like Kai Kroger who might not make the roster, but these are the guys that we're headed into preseason with. You've got 3, 7, 8, 10, 12, 14, 19, 22, 24, 26. Wait, no. This was 19. 21, 23, 25, 27. 29, 31, 34, 36, 38, 41, 44, 46, 48, 50, 52, 54, 53, or 55, excuse me, 56. So 57 total players. So if you want to know who I think makes this roster, Jawar Jordan's out. And then I could see an Evan Brown going out. Um, I could see Blake Fisher being traded away if a team needs a tackle like the Chiefs. I could see, Dominic Robinson or Dylan Horton being out. Jamal Hill potentially good special teams guy. Um, Tremont Smith, another good special teams guy, but he could be out as well. But we're going to talk about each position here because I have some notes that I want to share with y'all. And that consists of talking about each of these prospects, or not prospects, excuse me, players. Um, And we're going to start with the quarterbacks. People might say this is our weakest position, but if we talk about CJ, um, you know, a really unfortunate situation in the playoffs for him. Bad conditions in both Pittsburgh and New England. And then Trent Brown goes out the second game of the playoffs after locking down TJ Watt, which means that Titus Howard has to become a makeshift tackle. And that leaves a vulnerability at the guard spot. And I believe that was Jarrett Patterson who filled it out last year. You can see he's not even on here on this one. I have 10 offensive linemen on here, and he doesn't make it. Um, so he had bad O-line play, bad conditions. And then Kaylee didn't call anything to really help him out that game. And I'll explain it. So as a QB, you want to be in rhythm. Um, and, a good way to stay in that rhythm when it's, bad conditions is by going to the check down game, going to the screens, hitting your tight end. Dalton Schultz gets hurt in that game. You have Cade Stover as your tight end one, Harrison Bryant as your tight end two. Two guys that might not even make the roster because you have Schultz, Klein, Moreau, and then it's Stover or Jordan. And I'd prefer Jordan because I think he could play that H-back role. But I mean, this is our tight end 1 to 3 right here. I think the other one's competing for the tight end 4 spot. Um, so, when you don't have Nico Collins either, so you're missing Nico, you're missing Trent Brown, you're missing Dalton Schultz, so you're missing a security blanket in Schultz, the guy who can stretch the field in Nico, and then you're missing your starting right tackle when you have a makeshift guard play or a makeshift tackle who's at guard play right tackle. In Titus Howard, where I think his best position is at guard, and then it fills that void on the interior offensive line. So you're running with Ed Ingram, Jarrett Patterson, and Jake Andrews. Like, that's not a reliable offensive line by any means. I would have rather Blake Fisher at right tackle than Titus at guard. Didn't happen. Um, but it means that Woody Marks wasn't able to do anything. And when we did establish a drive, Woody Marks fumbles, So there's that. CJ, I just, I was ready to just give up on him after that playoff game. I know a lot of y'all saw my reaction to that one. I wasn't really too high on CJ. I was ready to just let him go after that point. But after calming down, after having an offseason, after watching the game over 3 times, as painful as it is, Kaylee threw the ball 40 times. Yes, we got into a deficit, so I don't blame him. We also just didn't have a run game that game, but we also just didn't have the offensive line play to hold up in the pass or the run game. So bringing in Teller, bringing in Rutledge, bringing in Smith, even bringing in Evan Brown as a backup, even bringing in Fabechi Wiwu as a backup guard. Trent Brown coming back, who was a really reliable right tackle when he played for us last season, now as a swing tackle is really reliable. Ursary was a great player last year for us. Ingram was a great player. So you keep the 2 best offensive linemen, and then you ship out the rest. You bring in David Montgomery to strengthen your power back game, Obviously you keep Woody Marks, but you bring in Noah Whittington as an undrafted rookie who's got 4.39 speed. He's going to be able to stretch a field. He's a little bit older at 24 for a rookie, but has a lot of production at Oregon. Our film review on him is going to be the next video out, so um, you'll see that the day after this one. Nico Collins will be healthy. Jaden Higgins, great player. Jalen Knoll, great player. You're getting Tank Dell back. I don't know when he'll be back, and I don't know if he'll be great when he's back. But, I think it'll help CJ just having Tank Dell back in the locker room as a locker room presence. You saw the clip of him today, um, and we can watch some of those towards the end of this video. Just being back on the field again, CJ seemed elated with that. Xavier Hutchinson, good player. Lewis Bond, I think, could be a really good player in this league, and I think he has a higher ceiling than even what I suggested on the film review as a wide receiver 3. I think he could potentially be a starting wide receiver for a lot of teams. So I like the pick more and more as time has gone on. Probably, Jared Wayne, another receiver in there, Justin Watson, but I think it's this 6 that we're running with, and then we'll have 1 or 2 more, potentially as special teams guys. Jawar Jordan, I think, gets cut, sadly. But British Brooks, great utility guy who can be an RB4 if you need him to. And I'd be excited to see him do that. Dalton Schultz, clear tight end 1, just gets an extension. Marlon Klein, a guy that can stretch the field for you down the seam. We watched his film. Good blocker as well. So high floor guy in Marlon Klein, who also has a relatively high ceiling because of his athleticism at the tight end position. And then your tight end 3 is Foster Moreau, who's better than any tight end 2 you had last year, in my opinion. Maybe it's Klein as your tight end 3, but like these 2 guys right here are both better than your tight end 2s last year. And one of them is going to be your tight end 3. So you improved at running back. You improved along the offensive line. You improved at tight end. You got better depth at receiver, especially getting Tank Dell back, who can be a dynamic playmaker if he's healthy. But along the offensive line, Ursary, good player last year. You keep him. Backup Blake Fisher. He's not going to be your swing tackle anymore either. So he could grow. He could be traded if you're trying to cut down on the roster spots. Wyatt Teller, probably the first swarm player we brought in free agency along the offensive side of the ball. You get him in. He's switching from right guard to left guard. I think he'll make a seamless transition there. I believe he played left guard in college. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Evan Brown, guy that can play center, a guy that can play guard. So you can see Jake Andrews or Evan Brown get cut. I think Jarrett Patterson's gone, to be honest. I just don't see where he fits, especially if Evan Brown's a guard or a center. I think he has a higher floor than Jarrett Patterson, and that's all you're looking for, some depth there. And I think that's what Evan Brown's going to do. Keelan Rutledge as the starting center. You bring him in the 26th pick of the NFL draft. High floor swarm guy, high ceiling too. If he can, control his body in space, which I think he'll be able to do. But we don't ask to push. We just ask you to be physical, or don't ask you to pull. We just ask you to push and be physical. And that's exactly what Keelan Rutledge is. Ed Ingram, great year last year. Bring him back, and then a pristine right tackle who we got for $10 million in Braden Smith. Who, if he's healthy for 11 games of the year and then you have Trent Brown for the other 6, that's perfect for me, in my opinion. Trent Brown's going to start a lot more ball games than you think at true right tackle because Braden Smith does get hurt. So you're going to see Trent Brown a decent amount. You're going to see Braden Smith a decent amount, but Trent Brown, great player too. I think you're going to see a right tackle rotation there throughout the course of the season with injuries, but you have the 2 there for, $17 million, so less than Titus Howard got paid. To be serviceable right tackles. Don't know which one's going to start. Don't know which one's going to be the swing. But if Ingram gets hurt and Weewoo's not ready, Braden Smith can kick inside at guard. Brown's their starting right tackle, But Weewoo, I think, is a great player. I think the Texans got great value there at 104, was it? Or 106, excuse me. It was 106. Guy that might play center too, so you can see Weewoo at center, and then Rutledge as a backup guard. You never know what the rotation of this offensive line is going to be. In my opinion, these are the 10 that I think are going to make the roster, and I think we will carry 10. If you're saying 9, I think it's Blake Fisher that's gone or Evan Brown. I think Jake Andrews does stay. Moving on to the defense, I think Dominic Robinson could be on the chopping block, but I do think we need another edge in there. Love to see Derek Barnett come back. I think he's such a vital player to the way we play. If not, you could see Logan Hall play edge. As a not a 3 tech, as a 9 tech, which he's able to do. So you could see Logan Hall be a backup edge as well as a backup D tackle, and be our edge 3. Would have liked one in the draft. But Dylan Horton's all right. Dominic Robinson has a lot of development to do. And we can see if D'Amico can get the best out of him because I think he has a decently high ceiling. But you bring in Caden McDonald, who's going to be your run stuffing D tackle. In my opinion, I think Togia might be a starter, but we rotate, and I think these are the five guys in the rotation right now. Naquan Jones, I absolutely love too. I thought he was great in the playoffs. Um, so we'll see what happens there, but I really like Naquan Jones. I think your defensive line got a lot more physical with Caden McDonald in terms of the run game, which allows Will Anderson and Daniil to flourish, and Sheldon Rankins, who's a really good pass rusher up the middle too. In terms of linebackers, I could see Wade Wood as starting over Toa at some point in the season. Um, Ignore the strong and the weak. It's just because it's a 4-2-5. But they two off the ball linebackers is the way to put it. You just have to put S and weak. Toto is usually on the strong side though, and then Aziz is the Mike, and then you have a Will, which is EJ Speed, Wood as Aiden Fisher maybe. I think Fisher's going to be more of a special teams guy, but if you have this core four, then you have a really good linebacker core, and then I think Aiden Fisher as a fifth linebacker is a very serviceable player. And you get him in the seventh, which I think is great value for him. Um, Still have to watch the film on Woodaz, Fisher, McDonald, Rutledge. We've only gone through Bond and Klein so far. Um, but moving on to the corners, you have corner one, you have corner two, and then you have corner three back healthy. And I think that's something we were missing was Jalen Smith last year because we didn't have that CB3. When Kamari went down and it was Shawan Smith, he just got absolutely targeted the whole time. Um, and it's not what he's expecting to play, so you can't really fault him. But at the same time, you'd expect a little bit more from your CB3. That's exactly what Jalen Smith's going to be for this team, and I think he's going to be a vital piece um, if one of those corners do go down, because Stingley might miss a game, and then Kamari likes to lay the boom. But if one of the hits catch up to him, then maybe Jalen Smith has to come in. But I think he's serviceable. Third round pick from the year before last, or from last year, I guess technically. But the draft before last is what I meant to say. But I think he will be a very serviceable player on this team. Jalen Petrie and Kamari Ramsey as our nickels. Kamari could be a safety, but I think he will be a nickel because I think NJ Stewart got brought back to be a backup safety, and then Jalen Reed was a serviceable player when he was able to play. It should be Jaden Reed, right? No, it is Jalen Reed. Um, excuse me. I always get them mixed up. Jaden is a Packer, but Kalen Bullock, Reed Blankenship, one of the best safety tandems in the league. Kalen's going to be your rangy safety, and then Blankenship's going to be your physical, strong, who's playing in the box, in and around the box, who's able to make plays as well. But Bullock's going to be that rangy guy that's going to get those turnovers. Blankenship's good for a turnover as well. But I think he's one of the more physical tacklers in terms of safeties in the league, especially in that run game. And then if we go to the special teams, I think it's going to be Fairbairn and Stonehouse. I think it's a punting competition between Stonehouse and Kroger. We'll see who wins out. And then Austin Brinkman was a serviceable long snapper, but there's 50. What did I say originally? 59 or 57 on here. So 4 on the chopping block. I'd go Jawar. I'd go Dominique, Tremont, and Kroger to make it 53 because I think it's 57. If it's further than that, I don't know. And there's going to be players that we pick up in free agency that are going to make the roster over others. But this team is incredibly deep. Right now, I have us going 12-5 or 13-4, and being a 2 seed. So I guess we'll see what happens. But let me know what y'all think about this Texans team down below. Just a roster outlook in today's video, and then we'll get to the film reviews and stuff soon. But if you did enjoy this video, please be sure to like, subscribe, and as always, it's Texans Takeover, and I'm out. Peace.